Welcome back to Joellen's Kitchen. Today we're going to make blueberry muffins. It's not a hard recipe, but boy are they good. Now you might say, Joellen, you're a little late this month, and you would be right. We have been involved in a very tight race in the state of Pennsylvania for United States Senator. And as a county commissioner, I may have shared before, if not, part of our duties are to safeguard elections. That means we've been involved in the recount, and I hear that that is about decided, and there's a few votes coming in that they're talking about mail ballots, counting those if the dates weren't written on by a voter. But they were received in the Office of Voter Registration by the deadline of 8 o'clock on election night. So one court said count them. We're waiting on a higher court to give us the final word. At any rate, that's a little bit about my job. So now let's get down to cooking the muffins. And I'm going to start with 2 cups of flour. But in a separate bowl, we want to place 1/3 of a cup of butter, which is about 5 tablespoons. And we also want to place 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And I'm just going to mix that together. I had the butter sitting out so it would soften a little bit, and then we can mix it in with the sugar. And once you have that mixed together pretty good, we can add it to the flour. We want to add 1 egg. And we want to add 1 cup of milk. Now I happen to have chocolate milk on hand. Chocolate is never bad in my book, so I'm going to add a cup of chocolate milk. And it's unusual, but this particular recipe calls for 4 level teaspoons of baking powder. Now when I was growing up, this was always confusing to me because the baking powder came in a can and the baking soda came in a box. But nonetheless, we're going to put in our first teaspoon, 2, 3, and 4. We also need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now that I'm just so used to measuring in my hand, so I'll put that in. And we're going to mix this together for the dough. Some people use a mixer, but I'm so used to making my dough just by mixing it by hand. So at this point, that's what I'm doing. It's a rather thick dough. And of course, the final ingredient is the blueberries. Now you can add 1 cup, or I'm going to add 2 cups because I really like a lot of blueberries in mine. And we're just going to coat them with the dough by stirring them. 2 cups of blueberries is about a pint, so that makes it convenient. If you buy a pint, you can use the whole container too. Boy, did they look good in there. Now some people make their muffins in paper so that they can peel it off and they don't stick to the pan. Or if you prefer, you can spray Pam into them. And of course, then you will have ones that hopefully will come out rather easily. But what I'm also going to do is show you that sometimes people like a regular size cupcake muffin, and other times they like the super giant kind. I'm going to spray my Pam in there. We're going to make 4 giant ones. Now, if you noticed, we didn't put a lot of sugar within the recipe, so what we're going to do is sprinkle some of this sugar right on top to let it bake in. There we go. And it's not a set amount, just when it looks good to you. Okay, it's time to fire up my oven. I'm going to turn the gas on at the side and open my door, get my little flame ready, and turn on the gas. And there we go. Now, in the old cook stoves, you really didn't have temperature. But when it comes to baking cakes or breads or muffins, you really don't want to bake them too high or too fast. So I would say 325, and it's a little bit of trial and error, but I'll get the time down so I can share that with you. One of the things that I learned is also putting a silicone mat on the bottom of your oven is a really good thing, because then you don't have to clean the whole oven. If something ever cooks out over, you can just pull that silicone mat out separately and clean that off. You know, put the burnt stuff into the trash and then wash the mat and put it back in the oven and reuse it. It's a really nice little convenience that we have that they didn't have in the old days. So let's wait a little bit till those muffins are done, and we'll be back to try them out. Okay, we had to let it bake for half an hour at 325. Doesn't it look wonderful? I'm going to break a piece off and try it. Of course, it wouldn't hurt to put a little more butter on there. They're delicious. I hope you'll try them.